We ready? Ready. Good night, everyone. Good. Astros are playing. That was a fast meeting. Good evening, everyone. Tonight's Planning and Zoning meeting, it is October 18th, 2021, and this is the 6:30 p.m. scheduled meeting for Planning and Zoning. We do have a quorum. We have 6 Planning and Zoning members. Commissioner Boswell is not here yet. I understand she may be here, perhaps. Okay. We'll welcome her when she gets here. Introduction of agenda and format of hearing. That is item number 3. Mr. Martin Griggs.
Thank you, Chair. First, we'll have call to order for each item, then followed by the staff report. After that, the applicant will have an opportunity to present their case. Then the public can have their comments in either support or opposition. Please state your name and address for the record when you go up to the podium. Be brief and to the point within a 3-minute time frame. And then following those comments, commission and staff will have their discussion. The commission will vote to recommend approval as presented, approval with conditions, denial, or to table the items. City Council will consider zone change and conditional use permit cases that are heard tonight on the November 8th, 2021 regular meeting. On the agenda tonight, we've got a plat or a replat of property in Ryan Acres, a variance on Fight Road for the lot width to depth ratio, a zone change on Main Street, and a conditional use permit on Broadway.
Thank you for that. And that brings us to item 4. And for the record, Commissioner Boswell is here. Item number 4 is the consent agenda, and there's 2 items on the consent agenda. That is to excuse the absence of me. I was on vacation in Florida where it was raining, so I probably would have rather been here. But let's see. Item B is consideration possible action of the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. So
I make a motion.
2 seconds. I believe Mr.
Was that a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Absolutely. Yes.
And Mr. Boswell, that's a second? Commissioner Boswell? No? Sure. Hello, Commissioner Rolls, second. All right. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes 7-0. That moves us to item number 5, which is items removed from the consent agenda, which we don't have any. So that moves us to item 6, and this falls for our new business and what we're all here for. New business, item number 1, consideration possible action. This is plat number 21-00057, and this is a replat of Ryan Acres, Lot 26, Block 1. Request by Chris Hendrick, applicant on behalf of Sandra Sabrina Cavazos, the owner, for approval of the replat of Tract 26, Block 1 of Ryan Acres, creating 2 lots on 1.487 acres located at 3406 McLean. Motion for approval, please.
So moved.
All right. Next would be staff report, please.
All right, with that, I will introduce Florence Boaku, who is our planner who will be discussing this case. Florence, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Florence Boaku with the Community Development Department. And so today we are here to discuss the replat of Tract 26, Block 1 of Ryan Acres to create 2 lots on 1.487 acres. The 2 lots, one of the lots would be 0.453 acres, and then the second lot would be 1.034 acres. And the property is zoned single-family residential 1. We did send out notices to property owners within 200 feet of this property, and we received one phone call asking for more information about the replat. So staff reviewed the replat and determined that it meets the goals of the comprehensive plan, it meets our thoroughfare plan and our unified development plan, and there are utilities available to serve the property. The property is zoned single-family residential 1. The intent is to use it for single-family development, and so it's consistent with the zoning designation. The underlying land use is low-density residential, which supports the proposed single-family residential use. So what we have on our screen is the proposed subdivision creating one rectangular lot and one L-shaped lot, both of which meet the lot dimensions for the single-family residential district. And so staff has reviewed this based on the criteria outlined in Chapter 3 of the Unified Development Code, and staff has determined that it meets all the criteria for approving the subdivision of a lot in the single-family residential 1 district. And so based on that, staff is recommending approval of the proposed replat. Thank you. That concludes staff report.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant here to make the presentation? Either the owner or Chris Hendrick? Ma'am? Did you have anything to add to that, or do you wish to say anything? Okay, nope. Then that takes us to persons wishing to speak for or against this item. And I have someone has filled out a paper. Please use the podium up there. And as Martin stated, please state your name and address as you start so we can identify you. And thank you for filling out the form. And I believe, is it correct we have 3 minutes typically? Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Gerald Camp, and I'm just wanting to see the plat or the layout of where the house will be, and how the lots will be divided. Is all I want to see. If you have that, I could, look that over.
Yes, sir. And we're not allowed to dialogue with you at this point, but we can take your comments and restate that same thing during our discussion time.
Okay, I was just, I just said, it's going to divide a lot, and I just wanted to see how it would be divided, and, something on paper. That's all I have. That's the only question
Yes, sir.
I have.
Appreciate those comments.
Oh, and are we in a flood zone there?
We'll ask that question as well.
Or as drainage goes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak for or against? Anyone else? All right, hearing none. Staff, commission, applicant discussions. Commissioners?
I believe there's a plat in the presentation that shows the delineation lines of where it's going to be set up on the property. There it is. You can see that it looks to me like the existing house will sit on lot 2 on the L shape, but the new property house soon to be on lot 1. No, right there on that next lot, south of it.
Second question you had was about flooding, flood zone. I believe that shows you're in the 500-year floodplain there. Is that correct, Martin?
No, that's the 100, if I'm correct. And any flood mitigation for ponding or any of those topics would be handled at permitting. It is all shaded blue.
They, of course, will have to build the house out of that floodplain, but not the
Or a lot,
not the entire lot.
or the detention necessary to.
Any other comments or questions? All right, we have a motion on the table to approve. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes 7-0. All right, that brings us to item number 2 under Roman numeral 6, which is consideration of possible action. This is VARP 21-00011, and this is a variance from the 3-to-1 lot width to lot depth ratio and minimum lot width requirement for the R2 district. This is a request of Luby Garcia, the applicant, on behalf of Arnulfo and Romana Salazar, the owners, for approval of the variance permitted in section 2.6.1.1B1 of the UDC, which is the Unified Development Code, from section 3.2.14.2C to allow the creation of a lot in excess of the 3-to-1 depth to width ratio. The general location is 5933 Fight Road in Pearland. Motion for approval, please.
So, second.
Staff report, please.
Once again, let me introduce Florence. Take it away.
Thank you. So this request is for 2 separate variances. One is from the 3-to-1 depth to width ratio, and the other is from the minimum lot width in the R2 district. So the property is located at 5933 Fight Road, and the goal is to plat 1 lot with a width of 67.83 feet. The minimum lot width for the R2 district is 70 feet, so it's about roughly 2 feet shy of the minimum lot width. And the intended use is for single-family residential. So what we have on the screen is the zoning designation is designated as single-family residential 2, which supports the intended use. The underlying land use is suburban residential, which is mainly for the development of single-family residential dwellings. So this is an existing lot. It's in the existing configuration, and so there's no subdivision going on. The owner is basically trying to plat that existing lot in its existing configuration. So staff has reviewed this according to the criteria in the Unified Development Code for approving variances, and staff has determined that it meets all the criteria for approving the variance. And so with that, staff is recommending approval of the proposed variance from the 3-to-1 lot depth to width ratio and then the minimum lot width in the single-family residential 2 district. Thank you. That concludes staff report.
Thank you as always. That concludes staff reports. So is the applicant here to make a presentation? Applicant or owner? You wish to add anything, or please?
Is the company that Lupe Garcia works for as well. We're here on behalf of the homeowner. This plot was originally platted into 3 in 1928.
Name and address, please, for the record.
Sorry, Chris Collier, and I'm at 1078 West 42nd Street in Houston. And so this homeowner actually owns a center section of a lot that's been replatted into 3 sections. And so that's how we got into this kind of funky size. They're a part of the GLO program to get their home rebuilt from Hurricane Harvey. So we're just trying to move this along to help them get back in their home. We're not trying to change anything. We just no longer meet the new requirements, even though they purchased it in 1978.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Sir, did you fill out one of the, what do we call that, lavender or periwinkle forms? There's some on the table over there. When it's over, if you could fill that out. Just because your name is not the same as the applicant or the representative, we want to track your information with what you said there. Thank you.
Very specific.
That brings us to that. Let's see. That was the applicant presentation. Persons wishing to speak for or against. Is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against? Anyone wishing to speak for or against? Hearing none, we'll move on. Then that brings us to staff and commission and applicant discussion. Commissioners? One of those things that we deal with when it's a rebuild, like you said, and unfortunately, sounds like it was a Hurricane Harvey issue, and we're still dealing with that, aren't we? No further staff wrap-ups? We're good. All right. We have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes 7-0. And that brings us to item 3 under Roman numeral 6, and this is consideration and possible action, zone change application, zone 21-00017. And this is a request by Jose Jaramillo, RSG Engineering applicant on behalf of DN 18 Rivers LLC owner for approval of a zone change from the general commercial, which is GC district, to the light industrial M1 district on approximately 9.569 acres of land. And I believe this is the land that's on Main Street. Yes, sir. 1613 Main Street. Motion for approval, please.
Second.
All right, that brings us to staff report then.
Thank you. Let me introduce Mohammed Brema, our senior planner, who will handle the staff report for this case. Mohammed, take it away.
Okay, I will be taking it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then Florence, never mind. I have my notes wrong.
So this request is a zone change from general commercial to light industrial along Main Street. This is an existing lot. And basically the applicant is trying to build some office warehouses and also have some light industrial uses on the properties. And some of those uses are not permitted within the light industrial district. So office warehouses are permitted in the general commercial district, because of the possibility of light industrial uses in the proposed office warehouse. They are trying to rezone the site to light industrial to accommodate those uses. Staff sent out public notices to property owners within 200 feet of the property, and we did not receive any comments for or against the requested zone change. The property is currently zoned general commercial, which does not support light industrial uses. And so that is why the applicant is trying to rezone the property. The underlying land use is industrial. The industrial land use supports both light industrial and heavy industrial uses. So it's more compatible with the underlying land use. These are views of the subject property. It's surrounded by a mix of warehouses, industrial, and retail uses. So staff has reviewed this to determine conformity with some of our basic requirements, and we determined that it conforms to the comprehensive plan, that the proposed zone change that they have is requesting for a zoning that is less intense than what is allowed by the underlying land use. It does conform to the thoroughfare plan. It's along Main Street, and it will be subject, any development on this property will be subject to corridor overlay district requirements. The property is not platted at this moment, but it will need to be platted before any development can take place. And it has utilities available on site along Main Street. And staff has also reviewed this according to the criteria outlined in the Unified Development Code for approving zone changes, and has determined that it meets the comprehensive plan, the thoroughfare plan, and other visionary plans that the city has. And then it also meets the zoning district requirements. And so any development will be designed to meet the light industrial district requirements. And I just want to remind the board that when the zone change is approved, all the uses allowed in the light industrial district will be allowed on this site. And then the proposed zone change, we do not anticipate any public welfare or safety issues with the proposed zone change. And so based on that, staff is recommending approval. This proposed zoning is not isolated. It's surrounded by a mix of existing light industrial uses, so we believe that it would be appropriate for the location. Thank you. That concludes staff report.
Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to the applicant presentation. Is the applicant here? All right, seeing that the applicant is not here, we go to the next item, which is persons wishing to speak for or against. Is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Staff, commission, applicant discussions. Commissioners?
Can I see where this is again? Oh, it's off of Halleck. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, they're PEDCs, they redid Halleck and Rice Dryer going the other way, or they're working on Halleck, but they did Rice Dryer. So, I mean, this is, what's just north of this on Main? Is that Coza's, Jerry?
That's very farther north. They're south of Alice. Coza's place is south of Alice. And then you have the pit.
Yeah, that's the
Coza's operation is in these buildings.
that Scheffler's right there. Yeah.
Right. This property, you may remember that there was a conditional use permit for a distillery. Previously, there's been a church, and I believe there was a daycare at one point in this front building. But this is a development with a few varied warehouse type uses in it.
Yeah. So that's residential in the yellow behind it, sort of Bartlett. Yeah.
Correct.
What, this is multifamily right here? Yes. Is that still Is it still owned by the same people, multifamily adjacent?
I believe both these parcels are owned by the same.
I mean,
I don't know the history of why this portion was left out.
we push, I mean, PEDC pushes everything onto, as much as we can onto Main and Halleck and Rice Dryer and South, because that's supposed to be more industrial. And this is being rezoned to something industrial, light industrial, so I'm cool with it.
I'm also okay with it. You know, I like for the applicant to at least show up. You know, so if we do have any questions and stuff, but this is going to a stricter use than what the GC is, so I'm okay with it.
To be clear, it is general commercial now going to light industrial? All right, thank
The
you.
request is for light industrial.
Thank you.
And is there any use in that light industrial that the staff is uncomfortable with? I know none was mentioned in the staff report, but it was kind of mentioned that it would be open to any. Is there any use that?
Within this location, you know, uses are going to be predominantly determined by the value of the land. With this having Main Street access to it, we're likely to get something that's more beneficial to Main Street itself than a deterrent. However, there are some more industrial capable land uses that are within the M1 district. But when you look at you know, properties across the street or immediately adjacent to this tract, you know, those uses could be done on Main Street today. So this isn't something that we see as potentially being a detractor to the area. And with it meeting the future land use designation for industrial, that's
Right.
what we're predominantly basing this recommendation from.
I visualized what, you know, from the report, I visualized what's happening on Halleck Road there on the north side of it, just south of this property. More of those, and I'm not trying to say it will be, but maybe like a plumbing supply place or an electrical supply, something like that, where they have a smaller office component and then a warehouse shop in the back. So that's kind of what I took, and I didn't find anything offensive with that. Anyone else?
Are there any uses in this light industrial that could produce smells or chemicals? Well, manufacture.
There are some lighter industrial uses that may have potential nuisances to them. Those nuisances are typically regulated by additional agencies.
Yeah.
So they typically don't allow any product of that nuisance to go outside of the boundaries of the property. But with that said, it is still light industrial, and there are capabilities to do industrial things.
I only ask because there's a house on Bartlett Way. It's fairly close, so there'll be some setbacks. I just don't know if there's anything that would impact them.
So being that the property is close to that residential, I would anticipate that whatever development comes in will likely have any manufacturing as far away from the residences, just so that way they're not creating a potential issue for their future.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes 7-0. That brings us to item number 4 under Roman numeral 6, which is a commission input and discussion for a conditional use permit application CUP 21-00031. And this is a request by Shazad Amir, applicant on behalf of Matthew Berger, owner, for approval of a conditional use permit, CUP, for cigar, tobacco, and e-cigarette shop, retail only, a use within the General Business District, GB, to accommodate approximately 2,000 square foot, I hope I say this right, hookah and vape shop retail, vape retail shop within an existing multi-tenant commercial center on approximately 12.6 acres of land, and the general location is 3227 Broadway Street. Since this is a CUP, I will not ask for a motion for approval, but simply we are opening this item for discussion. All right. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to now pass this over to Mohammed, our senior planner, to introduce and discuss the staff report for this item. Mohammed, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. This conditional use permit request is for approval for a cigar, tobacco, and e-cigarette shop retail only use within the general business district to accommodate a 2,000 square foot vape and hookah retail shop within an existing retail center located at 3227 Broadway Street. That's the northeast corner of Broadway Street and Berry Rose Road. The applicant seeks this approval of the CUP to permit the sales of hookah and vape retail products and equipment inside the existing retail lease space. According to the applicant's statement, this retailer has been in business for the past 3 years and in this location at least this year, specializing in the sales of CBD, kratom, if I actually spell that right, hookah, vape, and general novelties, fashion, jewelry, Bluetooth speakers, shirts, and hats. Staff has received one phone call, I believe, from the homeowner association on the north side. It was mainly informational. They were concerned about smoking in the business. They do know that there's a vape shop in that particular location, but they weren't just sure if also smoking will take place inside the store. Staff clarified that to them. On the aerial map, this is, Martin, it's just the next slide. So this is the shopping center where the vape and hookah retail business will be located. It is surrounded by apartments on the north side, a small apartment portion, and retail business on the east side, strip center on the south side across the street from Broadway, and then a gas station and residences on the west side. On the future land use plan, the property is designated for retail, offices, and services, which allows a variety of retail and businesses within the shopping center. It just allows retail and businesses. Again, this shopping center was developed in the 1980s. It's a multi-tenant shopping center that has retail and pharmacy at the corner. Moving on to the site plan, just a little bit fuzzy, but this is kind of shows the general location of the business, of that proposed retail business, as well as the current roster within the shopping center. And I do have a photo, and that's the next slide, and that shows just a glimpse of that shopping center with the business located at the towards the end of the near the corner actually of the shopping center. So just down by that the freight tools just next to it. This is a map that shows location of existing vape and vape type businesses. There are a few of them within the 3 miles radius. There's really none within that 1 mile. It's the red radius, but then you have a few of them within the blue, the 3 mile radius there. The next slide is the conformity table, and the proposed use is conforming to the typical review criteria And the next slide is the approval criteria from the Unified Development Code, and it is consistent with the criteria, and therefore staff recommends approval of the request. And that's staff report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to applicant presentation. Is the applicant here? Thank you, sir. If you'll state your name and address when you get up there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shahzad Amir, representing Asma Investments, LLC. The address to our business is 3227 East Broadway Street, Pearland, Texas, 77581. I do not have a presentation, but I quickly want to clarify about the call that was made in concern to smoking inside the business. There was a confusion about that because of a sign, like the LED signs that was put up on the door which said vape lounge, but actually we're not a vape lounge, we're just retail. The idea is to just do retail business. We do not let anybody sit and smoke inside of the business. If there's any other recommendations in order for helping us get it approved, we will be more than happy to take care of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. All right, that brings us to persons wishing to speak for or against. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against? Seeing none, we'll move to staff, commission, applicant discussions. And commissioners?
I'm curious why this is proposed when they're already open.
The business is already being received the certificate of occupancy for it, at least for a year, if not more than a year. But they do have sales, other sales, and we just noticed that they do have sales for hookah products as well as vape equipment, and that's what brought us to this point here. Is because they started selling these products which are not allowed.
I went by there today and asked about hookah. They said they don't sell it. They said they're a smoke shop. I asked for clarification 3 times. They said they don't sell hookah, that they're a smoke shop.
I think the applicant is here. He may be able to clarify that.
Sorry about that again. So when we had opened the store, there was a person who was in charge of the permitting process. He was basically managing, he was supposed to manage the store. He was in charge of everything that's from start to the end to open the store up. Unfortunately, we have a litigation going on against him because that's a different story altogether. And we were not aware about the CUP. All we knew was if you wanted to open a smoke shop or a novelty store, initially was the idea. We were not aware that to be able to sell hookah products or vape products, you need to get the CUP. As soon as we learned about it, first thing we did was applied for the CUP and took away all the products that were not in compliance with the CUP. So we took away the hookah products, we took away the vape products. We never carried cigarettes. Our idea is not to carry cigarettes. We do not want to promote cigarette smoking, tobacco, nicotine smoking. We don't want to do that. And we never carried that. So the only thing is, yes, vape is something that was the idea to sell, including CBD products. So CBD, I learned later on that CBD does not require CUP. But yes, when it comes to the whole confusion when the business started was because of an ex-person, and that can be proved with a letter that I had shown Mr. Griggs from our attorney. And why exactly this confusion, why exactly we happened to apply for CUP after we opened the business.
And just to provide some clarification from staff's previous comments, the issue is that during the occupancy request for this site, it was not checked off that it was a vape store or any type of smoking establishment. That would have, of course, brought more questions from the planner who signed off on it to, then steer them towards going for a conditional use permit. The understanding of this store was that it was pure retail through Mr. Amir's statements. That person is no longer with their business, but directed them to continue forward selling products, a vape of many different natures. So once staff found out, we took the corrective action to get with the business owner, and then they offered to remove those items and only sell products which could legally be sold within the zoning district without a conditional use permit. So they have general retail merchandise that they sell, they have CBD products that they sell, they have other things, but they removed all products which would have required a conditional use permit. So hopefully that clarifies and meshes both stories together.
It does, but it also brings me to want to renew my.
We are currently working on the CBD discussion.
Thank you. I thank you for reading my mind. I appreciate it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
I have many other talents.
This body doesn't get a vote. All they can do is recommend. But I've been against vape shops from the get-go, and I'm not going to change my mind on that. You asked what you could do, is I would, in my opinion, and in the way that I look at things, you're better off not even selling the products and just sticking with what you've already got. You never were permitted for it to begin with, so if I had a vote, it would be no to go with the conditional use permit.
Do we want to go one by one and state how we'd vote?
In case it wasn't clear, I would be a no.
Just to be clear, you have a C of O. Can I talk to him directly? You have a C of O, and you're expanding what you're selling to include hookahs and vapes, correct?
Yes, sir. So we're trying to be able to sell vape products along with hookah products.
And you were selling them, but was unaware that you needed a CUP.
Yes, because we've never been in Pearland City before. We've had businesses in only Harris County and City of Houston. And since we hired somebody to take care of the permits, and unfortunately we were not told that this is a requirement in the city of Pearland.
And your intent is to not smoke in the shop?
No, we don't let anybody smoke. It's just a retail store.
Okay. That was just for
I
clarification.
can assure you that, yes.
I appreciate it. I'm actually undecided, to tell you the truth.
I'm not really a fan of the hookah and vape shots. I do understand that you got yourself into this lease space, and that's very unfortunate. So I'm a little bit undecided. I don't know why the owner of this complex didn't advise you better. That's just very unfortunate, because I can't say that whoever is leasing this out didn't know better, because I think that they did. Has there been any crime associated with your other shops and other locations?
No, ma'am. Never have we been, we have a strict policy for 21 and over. That's something we cannot really play with. Federally, as well as we don't want any children to get into a smoke shop. It's a strict no. We have a strict ID check-in policy. Even if a customer looks, even if a customer has gray hair, it's just like a liquor store where they check everybody's ID. And there's never been theft or any kind of crime at any of our locations before. Yes, I understand smoke shops tend to draw bad crowds sometimes, but it's just when they are in those kind of neighborhood. And we have strict policy against any of that. We do ban people if, we have any other kind of customers coming in. If you feel something fishy, we have a great set of team that tries to understand that and stop any crime from happening.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. But like I said, I'm a little bit undecided because if you had come in the beginning, I would have said no, find another location. But I'm undecided because you're already here. So that's about it. That's all I have.
I'm going to be, we battle on these. I would agree that if this had come in today as a new applicant, it would be a no all the way around because we're having serious discussions about this expansion in town to begin with. So if I look at it as an existing business that expands their line of business to something I would not approve, then I would be a no.
I'm actually fine with this, and the reason being, citizens within that surrounding area were put on notice of this CUP. The only call that was in was one for information concerning would smoking be going on in the facility. That question was answered. I know that we're having a lot of issues around this particular type of the hookah and the vape and the policies and procedures that need to complement that. But again, I think we also, I rather keep in mind what citizens are accepting within their area. And I wasn't sure what the comment meant about those types of neighborhoods when it concerns hookah shops. I don't think that you can place hookah and vape and say that that is tied to crime or a particular certain neighborhood. I disagree with that comment. But just in the totality, the fact that it is an existing business, the fact that citizens were put on notice and didn't have any feedback, I'm fine with it. Thank you.
From a retail perspective, if I were to pick a spot where you're not facing the street, you're not fronting the street, I'm okay with that. A big strip center like this, you tend to blend in. I'm okay with that. I would, of course, prefer that I think there's a taekwondo or a karate, or I don't know the difference, right next to you or fairly close to you. There's kids there. That's kind of an unfortunate detriment, as well as the learning center on the corner there that's been there a while. But if I had to pick a spot, I'd much rather you be here in line in a center than somewhere else. So I tend to lean undecided, but I don't get the vapes. I don't even know what a hookah is. I'm sorry to be that ignorant, and I'll try to Google it later if I remember. And some of these guys made fun of me for that earlier, but sorry about that. I don't really have a strong opinion, but I probably you're in business already, so I probably would have given you the benefit of the doubt. I would have liked to have known more about what happened, and I would like to know from the city at some point, that they're going to put something in place that this does not happen again, or unfortunately, it's unpreventable, really, from a city standpoint. If in fact the circumstances that were described occurred, somebody came in, said we're going to do A, B, C, and instead they do A, B, C, D, E after the fact, right? So unfortunately, that does happen in our world. So we don't vote on this. We're if there's no further comments, we'll wrap this up. Yep, you have one more comment.
Is the sign there right now, or was it there previously? The CUP sign?
The CUP sign was up for like 10 days, I think, from the Friday before last week. So it's up there. You talk about the sign on the picture?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have one more question. Does the Kroger sell vape products? Do you guys know?
Yes, ma'am.
They do.
They do sell Views and other vape products. I believe so. They also sell cigarettes, tobacco products. They do not have any restrictions, I believe. They do sell CBD products as well. On the window, gentlemen talked about the kids being right next to us who do karate. I have a suggestion that we could, take care of. We have windows that are see-through. Our sign does not say smoke shop. There's no sign at the store or on a pylon or on the main sign that says a smoke shop. We do not promote or, we do not advertise us being a smoke shop. We do not want to be called as a head shop. It's purely, CBD is one of our go-to products. Vape products do go hand in hand. It is 30% of our revenue. Yes, again, it is very unfortunate that we were not aware about it. Neither the landlord nor this person that I mentioned before ever mentioned this to us. And we are locked in a 7-year lease. But yes, like I said, I would do everything possible to save our business. It's a woman and my wife owns this business. And yes, we faced a lot of losses during hard times. A lot of retail owners did face a lot of problems the last 2 years, or year and a half. But yes, if there are any suggestions that we could, take into care, we will be more than happy to take that taken care of. We could do glass tinting so that none of the people passing by outside can see what really we are inside. That will totally cover our products being shown from the outside, people walking by.
I would just suggest you not do that unless you visited with the planning department to make sure that you meet the window opacity requirements or translucency requirements.
Yeah.
So as the chair said, they don't vote. They just gather all the information and then pass that on to city council. So we thank you for your time here.
One thing I'd like to ask, I'm assuming you mentioned you signed a 7-year lease. I'm assuming that started a few years ago. But usually in a lease, a retail strip center lease or retail shopping center lease, the landlord has either uses that they allow you or exclusions that they say you cannot. If I open up a sandwich shop, Henry Sandwiches, I want to make sure Subway doesn't come in the same strip center to where we cannibalize each other, or one of us is going to go out of business, probably me. So I'm assuming though that you have permission from your landlord to sell these items.
Yes, sir. It is on the lease, in the permitted use.
I'm just wondering
all the products are listed there.
Got it. So it's on the lease, but it wasn't with the city. So you're saying that's where your partners or whoever it was misrepresented to the city what you were allowed to sell with the landlord.
Correct.
Interesting. Anyone else? All right. We'll wrap that discussion up. We're through with the discussion on number 4, and we'll move to item number 5. Thank you. Number 5 is consideration and possible action to select a planning and zoning commissioner to serve on a STR, short-term rental advisory committee. We don't need a motion and a second for this.
You do, because you're going to take a nomination and you're going to approve that nomination. So we don't know who's going to be on it, but somebody's going to have to volunteer or somebody's going to have to nominate somebody to be on that, and that's done through a motion.
All right, thank you. So let's have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
I apologize. I mean, you don't have to move to approve yet. You would discuss first, and then you would say, oh, well, we want to have so-and-so
Sure.
on it.
I nominate Commissioner Eisenberg.
Second.
And
Are we done?
what I've heard is you would like to do this? Is there anyone else that would like to be nominated? Let's just get that out there. So we have one victim only. I mean, one.
Ashley, do you want to be?
All right. So then we shall.
So now we would take a
I
motion
move that
to
Commissioner
nominate.
Eisenberg sits on the short-term rental advisory committee.
Second.
All right.
All those in favor?
All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes 7-0.
Commissioner Eisenberg, I'll be getting with you tomorrow to discuss more about the short-term rental committee.
It's ominous.
Well, that's because the next meeting is tomorrow. Yeah.
Is that tomorrow evening, or is that?
It's tomorrow at 5.
4:30. But it's
I was thinking it was 8 to 5.
it's virtually. It's virtual, yes, sir.
Yeah. I apologize that I just have an ominous tone.
Then we have, that brings us to next item, item number 6, commission input and discussion, the P&Z Commission 2022 meeting calendars, plural. Staff?
So annually, we bring forward the planning and zoning calendars. This is just y'all's opportunity to get these dates squared away so that way you can make sure to plan around them. I will have staff send out meeting invites for those so that way we can start being proactive on scheduling these meetings. And then, this is for y'all's benefit.
Got it. I noticed on there it was submittal dates for plats, submittal dates for zone changes, and then it was
Correct. I can go into more description about that. We have 4 separate. We have a calendar for plat submission that takes place twice a month. We have a calendar for conditional use permits, a calendar for zone changes, and then a plan development workshop calendar.
You said plan development workshop. Is that to include us? Or that's
Correct. So plan developments still take place through a workshop first. So that way the applicant can have the benefit of getting y'all's input included with city council. That's still a thing that we offer to the developers. We typically would hold those on the 3rd Monday just to keep it per tradition. But if we have someone that comes in that's gunning to get a project out the door, we of course try to work with them.
one thing that was mentioned before, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned it or asked a question, was about a workshop, different from that workshop, for the commissioners on moving forward, not necessarily a direction, but maybe some more standards that we have so we're uniform on the forward movement and progression of the direction the city is going in as far as planning and zoning. I'm not trying to take up some more of your time, people. Sorry, but
I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
So the meetings that we had individually, in this building over here, was that tied to kind of what you're saying, trying to give us the vision of Pearland and the way it was zoned so that we knew moving forward what we had to work with? I'm just asking because when I was in that meeting with them, that's kind of what I was asking them. Like, is this just kind of background information so that we kind of have a vision for the city in mind when we're voting and doing these zone changes that are going to kind of be permanent and affect?
Yeah, I think that
taxes
was,
for the city?
I took it that one was more specific to Highway 35.
Okay.
Industrial feel of, I mean, that was my understanding. I don't know that that's the case, but that's what it, because I didn't do the bus tour, but I think the bus tour was more general, right?
Correct. So just to keep us on topic, we can come back to discussing some overall guiding principles, especially because we are in comprehensive plan mode with the Citizens Planning Advisory Committee,
Sure.
or the Comprehensive Planning Advisory Committee. Mixing alphabet soup in my head, so apologize. But
Sorry, that wasn't it. I'm sorry.
Following through with that, we are aware that we have not visited, the standards of procedure for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that's something that we're working on revising and getting a draft forward, so that way we can bring it to y'all for discussion and potentially to have two members discuss more on, so that way we can bring those as a draft forward for y'all's benefit. The discussion on Highway 35, since that is not a part of the calendars, I'd prefer that we hold that off for a later time, since that is not on the agenda.
That's not why I was saying it. I was asking, was that a meeting that would pertain to what Commissioner was asking? So I wasn't trying to.
No.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's all good.
I would like it on the agenda. I'd like to have a discussion about that same 35 corridor, that area. And I understand from Mr. Provins that we need whoever asks for an item on the agenda needs to have a second. And does it have to be in written form?
Give me a minute and I'll double check.
Oh, well, if it does, I'm happy to send an email, but I'll need a second. So if somebody, okay. I just feel like that we all had individual, or most of us had individual discussions. It'd be great if we had this open discussion, because I'm sure some of you had questions that I would maybe not have asked, and vice versa. So as a commission, I think we should have had that in an open forum to begin with.
I have a question. Is it, since we're always talking or debating what we think the city wants on vape shops and hookah shops and all that, is there a way for the city to do like a Facebook poll or a city poll that people can go to and make a vote, like just an informal vote? Is that legal? Like, just so we have some kind of idea what the citizens. Lawrence, I think that's probably more for you. Yeah.
He's trying to think of how to.
I know that we had encountered something of that sort before, and the informal poll on what we had done wasn't favored, and I'm trying to remember the rationale as to why most municipal league type folks said don't do that informal poll because it's not binding and you can't do a non-binding referendum.
We could.
Or something of that sort.
You could do a non-binding, have the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, if we would.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll that's what they do. I mean,
Yeah.
Absolutely. A Chamber of Commerce can do something like that.
This-
we could, I mean, we talked to Matt at PDC and have them work with their, the chamber and say, look, there's opportunity there for growth in that area, and we're concerned about the direction the town wants us all to go, and
Yeah.
like some feedback. And that's, the chamber does that for a living, so.
Because at some point, our town elected not to have smoking in restaurants, which was a great thing, but somehow who came up with that
Well,
initially?
The 5149 failed, so they chose not to do that. So you're right. I mean,
Yeah. Okay, and then on another issue is.
Let me close
Okay.
that item number 6 and open it up to item 7, which is discussion items. There you go.
Okay, and then one other thing. While we're maybe in the future, I was thinking about housing for seniors. There's not a lot of people that really go into that type of development. And I think it's because seniors don't want a very big house and a big lot. I'm thinking more of elderly people who can independent live, but they don't want anything bigger than 500-600 square foot. So maybe there could be some discussion on housing that was deeded for that, but it was like like a duplex and then a duplex behind it, where developers could build something that's one story, but then there's entrance on the 2 on the front, 2 on the back, but it's more compact and affordable. But I don't think we have anything that's in zoning that would support that.
Typically, those types of developments are called cottage developments, and they're more of a tool akin to cluster plans.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to make a push for the comprehensive plan. We are seeing more elderly care and senior housing choice styles of development. And hopefully the need for additional studies of that type of housing will be commented through our dialogue with the citizens.
Yes, and I only say that because going through a recent situation with my mom, if she were to qualify for the subsidized housing, it would be a 4-year wait list in the Houston metro area and within a 2-hour drive of here. So we are severely deficient in that type of housing, and I just think that Pearland, we got to really kind of think about those situations for our seniors so they don't have to feel like they have to move out of Pearland once they can't stay in their house. And I just thought maybe we could discuss that sometime when we're thinking about the future growth of our town. That's it.
So if I could just interject for a moment, I wanted to make sure that I read the P&Z Rules of Order correctly before I answered the question. And it was whether or not you can request discussion items on a future agenda here during this meeting under discussion items, or whether it should be in writing. And the rules do not say it has to be in writing. However, if you're here and you're saying you want to discuss an item, would somebody second that? I would suggest that there is a possibility a member of the public could say, by asking amongst the 7 of you whether they want to discuss further that item, you have violated the Texas Open Meetings Act. So I wouldn't recommend that way to proceed simply because I can't control what a citizen does and I can't control what a district attorney does when they receive a complaint. I can only say, here's a way to avoid that. Don't ask for it in an open forum like that. If you want it, ask a fellow council member if they'll support you nominating it and then moving forward that way. And then if it's in writing, you could show it's just 2 people. Nobody can say that y'all discussed it to discuss whether or not you wanted to discuss it. Which I know is a bit absurd, but I'm just trying to give you the best information as possible.
Thank you for that. So I'll be more careful.
And then I would also suggest that the discussion items, that's really meant to be things like the things in the past, it's been activities that y'all have participated in that affect the community, especially in relation to your role here on the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's not necessarily a call for future agenda items, but I think that you could suggest that you've seen something like that based on your experience and you think it warrants a discussion item of that sort. So it's not, hey, we need to do this. It's, hey, I realized this during my visit to this summit, to my visit to the conference, or based on my personal experience. And I think that's something as a Planning and Zoning Commission we might want to look at in relation to the comp plan, which I think Martin has only plugged 3 times tonight, and your review of that comp plan. As you look at zoning criteria and that type of thing. So you tie it back to your role here, what your experience was.
Thank you for that.
I know Commissioner Dansby is dying to go watch the Astros, but I do want to say one more thing. The CUP sign that we saw the picture of in front of Kroger is not very specific as to what it is a CUP for. And I go to that Kroger 3 times a week, and I didn't see it there, but maybe I just missed it. But I'm also wondering if people see it and it doesn't say what it's for, and that store's already open. How is anyone to know that that's what the CUP sign is for? In that whole retail center, how is anyone to expect that that sign is talking about a store that's already open? I'm just curious.
So if a member of the citizenry were curious, our phone number is on that sign. And if they were curious enough to ask those questions, they should reach out and call so that way we can help them out.
And that sign is, the verbiage on that sign comes from somewhere, I'm sure. Is it by law, it has to say certain things and certain size of text? And
So we have minimum requirements for what it has to say in the UDC. There are communities who will make you put up an extremely detailed identification. So I think the question is, if somebody's driving by, what information do you expect them to be able to gather to put them on notice that something might be there? Because the signs are posted at the roadside for those who predominantly are driving by the area. I mean, I've seen some extremely elaborate, very good public notices tell people exactly what they're doing. It requires all kinds of information, but the balance there is, how much information do you want the person to invest in that CUP sign? What's sufficient to get them to look at the website or give a
would they have to pay for that sign?
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's why I say there's a balance in there for those extremely elaborate signs that I've seen, not for CUPs, but just for zone changes.
Well, I personally feel like that. I've always thought the signs were too vague. And I know that one of the reasons for them being too vague is because, let's be honest, we don't want an influx of the citizenry calling every 5 minutes. Where if you put vape shop on there or something like that, you'd get a lot more attention of what was going on. It wouldn't be just somebody from the neighborhood requesting something. It would be multiple citizens and stuff. Maybe we come up with a color, a sign to really stick out, like, maybe periwinkle or something.
Right.
Maybe.
Or lavender, either one. I think either one would work.
Yeah.
But, I think if it said CUP vape shop call, y'all would have gotten a lot more calls, I'm quite sure. Or CUP.
That's entirely possible, and it is completely within the P&Z's discretion to recommend changes to the UDC in regards to our notice provisions. So if y'all would like to make that recommended change to the UDC, we would expect to see a request come in, and some suggestions are always appreciated of what you want.
Thank you.
How do we go about that, Lawrence? I mean, who do we get in touch with? Do we get a hold of one of our city councilmen and bring it up? Because I have discussed it with some of the city councilmen before.
It's inside your
We can
inside
do
the
it.
charter. It's inside the UDC, and trying to think. I think
So
there were
it's-
3 different places. Oh, in your P&Z rules and procedure, it says you can make recommended changes to the city's zoning ordinance.
So it just
you
takes
would-
one of
the
us
2 of
to
you
have
would
a
start
second.
it. You would send your request on over to Martin with his agenda, and you let him know whatever it is that's in the UDC, what it is that you're looking to amend.
Yeah, but I would suggest we give them some direction if we're going to do that. Because if we just say, I don't like the sign and we need more info, it could go from the 5 lines to 150 lines. And yeah. No, I understand.
If I may just add one quick note that in addition to the sign, we also send a notice on the mail for residents, property owners within 200 feet of the subject property. So most of the neighbors surrounding a property or subject site, they will get a letter from the city, and that notice would explain to them what the type of request, what the applicant. We give them a little background, so it's very detailed notice.
Yeah, and that ties back to what Commissioner Boswell said earlier about the vape opportunity, CBD, because, you posted it and it went out I saw the list, there was, 20 people on it. So it's just, no one showed up. So, I don't know how, how it is, people scream after,
Sure.
and then that cart's out of the barn. He should have screamed louder when he opened his shop, but.
I think in this case, though, that retail center is buffered quite a bit with the multifamily surrounding it on one or two sides, and then other businesses. I don't even know that you had one residence in that one. And that actually is a good thing, for a vape shop not to have residents adjacent, in my opinion.
It's sent to owners or tenants or both?
To the owners?
Owners.
Yes, the address of the owner that's in the tax records.
So each individual tenant might not have known.
Right.
Yeah, the tenants for apartments may not get it, but it will go to the property owner. For tenants of apartment, they will not get it, but it will go to the property owner.
So I do have a point of clarification from Lawrence and some guidance maybe. I was always kind of told to, like I shouldn't pick up the phone and call another commissioner and really start talking in depth about any item coming up or any thing like that. But I can't bring it, or I shouldn't bring it up in the meeting either. I guess, how do I, without violating any rule, how do I have this discussion with somebody?
I think you can have a phone call with somebody saying, hey, I'd like to have a agenda item to talk about Y without to talk about X without giving the explanation as to why you think X needs to be there.
Okay.
What we don't want you to do is go to 6 of your fellow commissioners asking for their support on that particular one, because now you've circumvented the Texas Open Meetings Act.
Right.
So if you go to 1 or 2, and I say 2 because the first one might turn you down, and if the second one turns you down, I think you might have some forecasting of how people are feeling about your idea.
Right.
But I would imagine that 2 people, at least one of the 2, would extend you the courtesy of having it as an agenda item to facilitate the discussion,
Okay.
unless you're way out there.
Got it. I've been accused of that. Right. Thank you. So that brings us in, if nothing else, brings us to the next planning and zoning meeting is November 1st. Is there anyone that knows they will not be here?
Well, I was just going to also mention to remind and congratulate staff on their award. Yes. And the Red Sox just scored. It's 1-0. They still have bases loaded.
Well, best of luck to you on that. Obviously more important. All right, if there's nothing further, let's 7:49, close the meeting.